free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth, to live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge, on the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
Hello and welcome to Growing Edge Live. I'm so glad that you're here today. I'm Allie Benjamin, and it is my great pleasure and honor to be here on New Thought Media Network, delivering this show, Growing Edge Live. And Growing Edge implies that each of us are on an evolutionary journey, and we're each on the very green growing edge of our own becoming. And so thank you for being here. Hi, Shay. And if you're joining us for the first time, so glad that you found us. And if you are back, welcome back. You know that this show is all about soul-centered conversations with individuals that are channeling their time, their talent, their energy, resources, their love, and everything they have into doing good works on this planet. So this is the good news that we share every Monday, and I'm so glad that you're here today. So at the beginning of the show, I always jump in with the segment Ask Allie. And today I have a question that's been sent in by Ruby. And Ruby says, I was introduced to New Thought several years ago. I have found so much joy in the community and the spiritual teachings, but I struggle when it comes to money. Even though I always seem to have enough, it's barely enough, and I constantly ruminate about not having enough money to live the life I want to live. Help! Wow. I can relate to this one, and I'm sure some of you can too. Maybe not now, or sometime in the past. So as I talk about some of the prosperity principles, abundance principles that I lean on in times of lack and a sense of not enough, I want you to think about the journey you've been on. When you're feeling like there's plenty, when you're in the groove, when you're feeling like all your needs are met, in opposition or in contrast to those times that you feel like there's not enough. You can be in exactly the same day and have those two opposing thoughts and feelings. And so this is the wonderful thing that Science of Mind, New Thought teaches us. We can change our thinking and change our experience. So the thing about abundance, it's a spiritual principle. It's a spiritual fact. We are abundance. This body, this mind, this earth, this reality that we're living in is abundance. And when we have the consciousness to realize there's no separation between us and the abundant nature of the universe, when we have developed that consciousness and it's key, core for us, we just absolutely know that. We are identified with ourselves in terms of our abundant nature and our ability to create out of this rich, abundant fabric of the universe. So once we have that established, then what we see, the outpicturing of that abundance consciousness, is prosperity. Now, prosperity is subjective. We all have a different idea of what prosperity would look like in our lives. Some people don't think of prosperity in terms of money, but they think of prosperity in terms of health, in terms of rich and meaningful relationships. So a good thing for Ruby and all of us is to identify, what does prosperity really mean to me? Because I know that I've got the abundant storehouse of the universe available to me. We each do. We were each born into this world with access to the full magnificence of this banquet table of life that has been laid rich and plenty out before us. We all have equal opportunity to tune into that. Now, granted, some people are born into wealthy families. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about our ability to tap into the abundant creative flow that life is. So what is it? Why is it that some people seem to manage their time, talent, energies, and create the prosperous, abundant life that they want? And then some of us, there seems to be a block. We know it's there. We've taken the classes. We read the books. We do the affirmations and spiritual mind treatments. But the prosperity, whatever that is for us, isn't consistent. It stops and starts. So it's all to do with consciousness. And what I know is today, my guest today is going to be talking about consciousness. So we'll get Rick to be able to chime in a little bit here in just a little bit. But prosperity consciousness, abundance consciousness is what we develop. So what stands in the way of us having clear and constant access to our abundance consciousness? It could be self-doubt, self-worth issues. It could be that you're holding on to a grudge. Maybe you haven't forgiven yourself or something or someone else. Whenever there's something like that in our field, in our consciousness, it's going to be difficult to maintain that constant connection to the abundant flow of plenty. So we do the work. And that's really what we learn when we jump onto our spiritual path. We take responsibility for our own spiritual evolution, for our own spiritual journey. And so we have to ask ourselves some tough questions. What's in the way of me tapping into my creativity? Because abundance is about having access to our creativity. And if there's some self-worth issues or some doubts or fears, or like I said, someone or something you haven't forgiven, especially yourself, that's going to kind of block the flow. So I know this well. I have lived constantly in a kind of a feeling of discontent for much of my life. Not so much now, it comes and goes. But when I was younger, I would always feel like I didn't have exactly what I wanted. That somehow other people seem to have it easier than I did. So there must be something wrong with me. What's wrong with me? And it would be this vicious cycle of doubting myself. And so maybe have a look at that. Are you feeling discontent? Are you feeling like others have what you want and you don't know how to get it? The grass is greener on the other side. A good remedy for this kind of thinking is gratitude. Start counting your blessings. Start noticing how much you have in your life. Because when we're trying to vision, or if we're doing spiritual mind treatments, prayers for something that we want to realize or manifest, our vision, our dream, when we're doing this, but yet we haven't yet let go of this discontent, if we're coming to the universe asking for something more when we're not happy with what we've got, or we're not appreciating what we've got, that's a stumbling block. So number one in developing abundance consciousness is really looking to see how much good, how much beauty, how much joy is already in your life. And maybe you'll have to dig deep. Maybe you're not accustomed to looking at how much greatness is already happening in your world. I look outside and I can see the Wasatch Mountains. That's something to be grateful for. I can actually see nature. I can take a walk this afternoon if I want. I know that I've got technology on my side. I have this beautiful laptop, this beautiful iPad that I can interact with and do this show, Growing Edge Live. I've got this body. It's strong. It's beautiful. It's going to carry me through to the end. I know it is. Counting our blessings builds up an energy inside us. It builds up a consciousness of yes. And that's what the universe responds to, is that energy of vibrancy, of yes, of gratitude and appreciation. It said, some wise person said that we cannot have what we're not willing to become in consciousness. So we have to develop the consciousness for what it is we want. So if you want more joy, experience and acknowledge the joy that you have. Don't wait. Don't put it off. Go out there and have some fun. Grandchildren, pets, spouse, out there in nature, whatever it is that brings you joy, do more of that and feel grateful. Stay in the moment with that joy, with that gratitude. Release those fears and doubts and the uncertainty as it around if you're worthy of having this. Of course you are. You were born worthy. We all were. That's the fundamental nature of who we are. We're worthy to be here. Why? Because we are here. So dig in, build up that prosperity and abundance consciousness. And Ruby, you'll start to see the flow of plenty happening in your world because it's already happening. Just open your eyes a bit wider. I hope this has helped. Thank you so much. And if anyone watching has a question for me next week, go ahead and send it in, put it in the comments here or on YouTube or on Facebook or wherever you're watching this. And or you can email me at growingedgelive@gmail.com. Thanks, Ruby. All right, so now we are going to get to my most favorite part of the show. I absolutely love that Spirit knocked on my door and said, Ali, do a show, do an interview series where you get to speak to some people that really inspire you. And so when I said yes, I was nervous because I thought, I have to do that every week. I've got to find someone new every week. But let me tell you, it's been, I don't know, 3-4 months now, and they pop out of the woodwork. There's so many amazing people. And today, Dr. Rick Moss, who's been a friend of mine for, dare I say, decades now, probably coming up to 20 years. We first met at Anton, at the Anton retreat in Scottsdale. And I'm going to read your bio, Rick, because it says all the things that I really want to say, but that I don't quite have access to at the moment. So Rick has spent the better part of the last 50 years, both personally and professionally, on healing and awakening. For 20 years, he taught meditation and received a master's degree from the Maharishi International University, studying education in the light of consciousness. He went to the University of Texas and completed a PhD in education. Upon completing his PhD, he realized that meditation alone doesn't release unconscious patterns, and he began to develop his own method. He now calls this method Awakening Greatness. He works with people and groups worldwide. He's a noted speaker and teacher, and Louise Hay said of his work, I found the work we did to be extremely helpful. You have a wonderful gift to offer the world. Shout out to Louise Hay. Blessings. Rick studied at Emerson Theological Institute and became a minister of religious science. He served as the minister of prayer for 20 years, supporting the work of Dr. Bill Little at what is now the Center for Conscious Awakening in Pacific Grove, California. Rick has recently published a book, Drops of Wisdom, Guidance on the Path of Awakening. Dr. Bill Little has called it a masterpiece of spiritual literature. So he's got an amazing website and I think an app. We'll talk more about that at essentialpathways.com. But hello, Rick. Hello, my dear friend. I wish I could give you a hug. So virtual hugs to you. Thank you for being
Received.
No, thank you.
How wonderful to be on this show with you.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Doing wonderfully.
Good. I believe you're in Florida, right?
I am. I'm on this tropical island, and looking out the window, I see sea of green and ocean and bay and Miami skyline. What more could you want?
I actually know that view because I don't know if, well, I think you know this. We're on a Facebook group together called Clouds.
Right.
And so we post pictures along with hundreds of other people, post pictures of what we're seeing in the sky, clouds and views and vistas. And so I always see your beautiful pictures of your view, and it's breathtaking. And I haven't posted too many. We just moved about 2 weeks ago to a new spot here in Farmington, Utah. And I have the most amazing view of the mountains in the sky too. So I'll be posting more.
I look forward to seeing it soon.
Well, good. So you heard me talking about consciousness, and I know that it's been your field of study, that your PhD is in consciousness studies, and your dissertation was on that. And coincidentally, I'm writing my dissertation as we speak on consciousness for my doctorate in consciousness studies. So,
I didn't
yeah, so I decided that I'm going to be leaning a bit on your book as I write.
Excellent.
So, yeah. So how did you get to be where you are? Obviously, you've spent decades meditating, studying on your own spiritual path. You have a particular evolutionary journey that has been talked about and shared in interviews and in your book and whatnot. What happened before that? Like, where was little Rick? And did you have an awakening at a young age, or when did that happen? Tell us how you got to be where you are today, starting with your younger Rick version.
Well, I had a wonderful mother who was into Blavatsky and meditation. And one day she took me to our window in New York, looking over Central Park, and she pointed out a cloud, and she said, clouds are just energy. So everything, it's just energy. So if you don't want that cloud to be there, you can just send the energy to dissolve it into space. And we did it, and it worked. So I'd say that was a pretty amazing moment in growing up. I would say my spiritual journey really began after reading autobiography of a yogi, Yogananda's book. That just opened the door, and I said, boy, that's it. That's what I want. I want that journey. And so I looked into SRF, which is what he recommended, and there wasn't one in New York, but there was Transcendental Meditation. So I went to the Transcendental Meditation talk, and within 20 minutes, I said, this is what I've been looking for. Within a year, I was in Spain becoming a TM teacher, and I truly believed that all you had to do was transcend, and everything in your life would change. It made so much sense. And so I did that for about 20 years and taught it with great passion. But at some point, I had to sit down and say, wait a minute. Here I am after 20 years later, and I still don't have a personal relationship with God. Mm-hmm. And I'm in a relationship thinking that I want emotional intimacy, and I don't have it. And something's wrong. If all I had to do was transcend, I wouldn't be facing these challenges. So it's a scary moment when you realize what you've been doing for 20 years isn't the entirety, especially in an organization that doesn't want to mitigate its approach with other people's approaches. So I had to sort of be willing to set out on my own journey. And prior to this, I had an incredible experience. I had food allergies, and I don't know if you know about muscle testing, but you put your arm out and someone pushes on it and you can get a yes or no response from your body. Well, with my food allergies, I had to find someone to pump my arm to find out what I could eat for lunch. And one day my wife at the time wasn't around. So I said, you know, there must be some way I can test myself. And my neck just went spontaneously like that. And I thought, well, this is great. Now I have food allergies and a tick. But that wasn't what happened. What happened was that I spontaneously came into an internal signal, an internal yes or no signal. And I used it for food, and it was incredibly effective. But once this awakening came, that I was going to have to find some way to address the patterns that weren't changing rather than just transcending, because it was obvious at that time that even in immersion in pure consciousness, when you come back in, the pattern can still be there. It's not that TM didn't help me tremendously. Within the first month, depression was gone. But there were a lot of patterns from childhood that were not dealt with. And so I found that I could use this yes, no to ask for guidance. What do I need to do? What truth do I need? What do I need to read, to study, to listen to release these patterns? And that became really a central part of my journey. And I found that not only could I do it for myself, but I could test anyone who would be willing to either say yes or silently say yes and allow me to read their pattern and tell them where their stuff is coming from. So the bottom line to all of this is this. Our conscious mind is only 3 to 5% of our mental equipment. That means all the rest is unconscious. And I did stumble upon a wonderful teacher at the time. And what she taught was, if you want to see what you've got, don't look at what you think. If you want to see what you want, don't look at what you think you want. Look at your life experience. And that was very eye-opening. So what does that mean? It means that we have this defective mental programming from past experience that gets in the way of the manifestation of our true and perfect wholeness. And they stand like roadblocks to our awareness of who we really are. Because we're not these egos, these limited self-identities. We are this transcendent field of pure being that is our divine nature. But getting there requires that we address the barriers that we have put up in the way. There's a great Rumi quote. It goes, do not seek for love. Seek and find all the barriers that you have built against love. We may not know that we've built these barriers because the unconscious is unconscious. And most of us really don't know what that means. We live so much in our conscious mind, we really do think that's the kit and caboodle. But it's not the whole show. And so developing that ability, I set out to help people find those barriers that they put between them and their inherent divinity, their true and higher expanded self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing work that you do. And we will talk a little bit more about it. I think you're going to be doing a little process with us, a clearing.
I would love that.
Yeah, that would be really great, because we'll see if anyone makes any comments about, what it is that blocks them or they perceive that is blocking them. So if any of you are listening and want to add a comment, so Dr. Rick can address it, that would be great. So I know you and I have done some work and done, many clearings. We worked for several months together, which was so powerful. And yeah, you don't know what you don't know. And in my studies recently, I've been questioning what is consciousness. And Dr. Ernest Holmes says it's the sum total of our thoughts and beliefs. And I'm sure there's other definitions of it, but as I ponder that one, it's the sum total of our thoughts and our beliefs. So if that's, our conscious mind, and you're saying that our subconscious mind is so much more, like percentage-wise, is just, and that's potentially influencing our experience in the world. Like, how do we get to, where do we start? Because not all of us have a Dr. Rick next door, or maybe haven't picked up your book to find out. So, when you first started realizing, oh, wow, my life isn't going exactly, there's these patterns still running. I'm still experiencing some of these troubling situations, even though I've gone to Nirvana and back on my cushion. So what were some of the first realizations you had as you started to realize this is more about my consciousness and patterns?
I would say what started to come up for me was how much I didn't want to feel what I didn't want to feel. How much I stuffed into the unconscious from childhood. Experiences that I couldn't metabolize at the time. I think that the child mind cannot deal with a lot of challenging experience. They don't have the ability. And I think in a way, that's what the subconscious is really for, is for that child to take that stuff they can't deal with, abandonment, shame, horrific experience, and stuff it away until they're ready to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I think we were brilliant in stuffing these emotions away that we didn't want to deal with, but it doesn't mean that we can leave them there. And then our life starts to prove that to us. It reflects back what's going on.
Yeah.
And challenges in relationship really reflect back on what we think and feel about ourselves projected out on our partner.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to start being willing to go and explore where we have hidden the hurts, where our blocks are, so we can bring what transforms them, which is love and light and truth.
Love, light, and truth. Well, we're going to get more into that after we take a very short break. So thank you for being here, everyone. New Thought Media Network. We're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be back in a minute or two.
Choice, your creative superpower. We have the power to manifest as we dedicate attention to our thoughts, but often miss opportunity to achieve the greatest good. Your superpower is waiting to be unleashed to unlock a fuller, more rewarding world for all. Join us every Thursday at noon Mountain Time for Choice, your creative superpower with Zoe DeMuro. And now,
blessings, everybody. My name is Jafon Seeley. Could you imagine what is actually possible when we start honoring and recognizing our inherent worth, realizing that we are that which is assisting and co-creating our experience? And with that understanding, start recognizing that every human, every individual, everything that we interact with reflects that same inherent worth.
It's not about an adventure, it's about the atmosphere of the consciousness of adventure, the lifestyle of adventure. How many people would say that their lifestyle is adventurous?
My name is Lisa Benson. I'm a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant and the author of Anchored in Bias, Fired Over White Tears. It's a book detailing my lived experiences with workplace bias and what fueled my passion for normalizing conversations about differences and creating safe spaces for everyone to bring the best version of themselves to life every day.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
So we're back with Dr. Rick Moss here, and I see that Shay, one of our viewers, says what you're describing is the process of feeling all the things that were not able to be felt, is exactly what is going on with her, and she's working with her clients. Thank you for validating this beautiful and challenging process. So thanks, Shay, for commenting. Yeah, so
Thank you, Shay.
I have had the great, joy of being in a workshop with you, several times. And so not only have I enjoyed working with you one-on-one, but I've been in groups, and I've seen the impact that you and what you share, this process that I'm so excited that you're going to share with us, this process you share has really impacted many people that I've seen myself. And so when your book came out, I was super excited because I thought, years of working on this, working with hundreds of people, going in process, in doing sessions with them. And now it's all sort of, all the juices in this beautiful drops of wisdom. So I've seen you take people and take them, ask them what's going on, and somehow you're able to intuitively tune into them. It's like you're speaking at the level of the subconscious. You get into them, and you're able to help them by, I don't know if it's your energy, your aura, or just the perfect questions that you have, but it's probably a combination of everything, the spirit moving through you. But you're able to have them have a realization, a revelation, a shift in consciousness right there in front of, 20, 30 other people. And it's brilliant. And then you offer one-on-ones, and I see at these retreats, people lined up trying to get to you because you absolutely do it. You help people shift and become aware of what they're not aware of, these blocks, these patterns. So what is it? Can you tell us a little bit about the clearing process and how you came to it, how it's developed over the years of trying it on and putting it into practice with people? Like it's such a gift that you have, Rick.
Thank you, dear. I would love to. I say that it starts when I work one-on-one with understanding what childhood was like for the person that I'm working with, because all patterns repeat until they are dissolved with love, light, and truth. So I need to know, did you feel loved? Were you abandoned? Were you hurt? Were you betrayed as a child? Because the child can't deal with it at the time. It gets stuffed into the unconscious, but it becomes very powerful as a way of bringing about the repetition of whatever we experienced. Freud called it repetition compulsion. Whatever we experienced in childhood, we seek again in some form until we undo the illusion that that was love. So we may have been neglected, we may have been abused, but we thought as a young child that was love, that we're so desperate for love to survive that whatever the attention is, we think is love. And until we change that programming, that's what we think. That's why it said we marry our parents. But that program can and has been changeable. The other thing to understand that's key to it is that the child mind is narcissistic. And that means whatever the child experienced in childhood, she or he thinks it's about them. I mean, this is enormous. So if mom and dad didn't love them, they think they are unlovable. And that forms the basis of the illusion that they go into the world to perpetuate, because they think that's the truth. They are unlovable, and they will recreate it until they experience, and that's what we're going to do a little in a few minutes, that they are inherently lovable, that we have a part of ourselves, call it the true self, the higher self, the soul, that loves unconditionally. Now the key, and this is in the book, and it's helpful in the book that people can learn to do this for themselves. And chapter 3 really helps you do the inner child work for yourself. And so does my website, as you mentioned, that we need to be able to find within ourselves unconditional love. And it's totally different from conditional love. So what's conditional love? That's the ego's version of love. And what it means is, what do I get out of it? The ego's only thinking about itself ostensibly. So the ego's version of I love chocolate ice cream is, when I ingest it, it gives me pleasure. There's nothing about what we give to the chocolate ice cream in egoic love. But in the higher self, in the soul level, unconditional love is all about give. And when we extend and when it flows through us, when the God energy is just moving through us, what happens is that it heals us as we give it. And that's that incredible spiritual principle that I think I've actually heard you talking about too. And that is the difference between giving at a material level and a spiritual level. I give you $10 and I have $10 less at the material level, but I love you unconditionally, and I am filled with the love that I'm giving away. Not only am I not depleted, but I'm expanded and enlivened and enriched by the giving. So it's the unconditional love and presence, to be fully there, fully present with something, has a powerful effect. When you're fully present, when your mind is not divided, when you're not thinking about anything else, your energy field just becomes rich, powerful, and enlivened. And that has a profound effect. So unconditional love and presence. And then, as you'll see when we do this little inner child piece, and I hope you can see, and anyone listening can see, that if it happened 50, 60, 40 years ago, it's still in the unconscious until you clear it away. You can't just say that happened when I was young, get over it. Get over it is just ridiculous. That's not how the mind works. You look at the world today and you see that you just don't get over it by growing older. No. You got to do the work. You got to find the love, the presence, and open to the truth. So what kind of truth? Well, you'll see it, I believe, when we do the inner child process, but it sort of streams through me, and I don't always get to decide what streams through.
Yeah.
When the loving adult part of ourselves goes to the hurt child and tells the hurt child that it was never your mother or father's job to love you unconditionally, that it's my job because I'm you grown up. That's a powerful, powerful truth. It needs to be understood. I believe that we choose our parents, and we don't choose them necessarily because they're a fun ride, because they're going to activate the stuff that we need to be triggered in order to make our journey to wholeness. And so we have to get this stuff stirred up so that we get motivated to attention it. And then with that motivation, we'll be led to some support, some nourishment that will help us learn to forgive, love, expand, embrace the truth, and our lives will change.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'm noticing that Shay has said, I was so gaslit. How would you work with the non-trust and difficulties making decisions that repeats after such abuse?
Oh,
so maybe
I would love
can we do that?
More time to answer that question in depth. But I would say, and maybe we'll experience this in a couple of minutes, a great question. I would say that when you find that part of yourself that loves unconditionally, you will ask yourself this question: could I harm that which I love unconditionally in any way while I love it? And you will answer it, impossible. I've never I must have done 20,000 sessions by now. I've never found one time where anyone could say, I could love unconditionally and I could harm that child at the same time. It may be the only thing we have absolute certainty of, that it's impossible. So, Shay, that's the beginning. When you realize that there is a part of us, this divine aspect of ourselves, that can love ourselves unconditionally and could never harm, then we can bring that part to come and protect that child. And again, we may not get to it in the few minutes that we have to do an inner child process. But what I do that really works, that you could test out for yourself, find that loving part that cannot harm. Ask yourself, could this part love if that child that I'm loving wasn't good at something like spelling? Of course. If that child were sick? Of course. If that child was angry? Of course. So then you find that the love has nothing to do with performance or feeling. It's essentially flowing through you from God to that child. You're just the conduit. It's that unconditional love isn't manufactured, it's God-manufactured. It just comes right from God through us, and that is this power that transforms. And so then when you find that part of you that loves like that, tell the child, I'm going to surround you with 100 loving adults and create this atmosphere of safety around you. So if that person who hurt you in the family were to step into that circle of love, the love would be so strong that they would immediately forget why they came. And they would leave immediately if they couldn't love. And that is the protection that you're going to offer child after child. And there's not just one inner child. An inner child is really a memory bubble. And patterns are made up of many memory bubbles, just the way a jigsaw puzzle is made up of many pieces. We have to extract those pieces. And every piece we take out of the puzzle allows us to see through the blockage to the light that is always there of our higher self.
Yeah, you're giving us so much here, because what I'm hearing is that essentially we are responsible to be our own light, and that our own light and love and will be the thing that helps us to heal, to help us maintain joy in living, is by taking the responsibility, almost like reparenting ourselves. And for those that we were maybe abandoned by, or for Shay here who was gaslit, and I'm imagining, those parents that don't have the skills or the ability to love unconditionally, but are struggling and suffering from their own subconscious and their own wounds. And then we as little ones, just take in all that, and it's just an ongoing cycle within families of abuse and abuse and abuse, and it's mostly unwitting and unconscious. And so why don't we get to do a clearing, some inner child work, and take us away with this.
Let me clarify one thing that you said that's so important. You said we. Let's not confuse the we with our ego, because the ego doesn't love. It's got to be from the higher self.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I have 10 minutes, right? Here goes. I'm going to start with a little opening prayer. All healing we do in the name of God's love. We give thanks for this opportunity to release the binding influence of the past. We call on God and invite the presence of goodness and peace and light and love to facilitate this healing for all listening. So be it. Please think the limiting belief, there's something wrong with me. It won't hurt you to think a limiting belief. If it's not there, you'll go, this doesn't make sense at all. It's absolutely not true. And you'll be right all the way to the core of your being. If it is there, you have to trigger it. You have to bring it to life. So don't be afraid. There's something wrong with me. If you weren't loved unconditionally 24/7, you're going to carry that thought along with you. When you were corrected or in school or this or that or a sibling rivalry, everyone that I've ever worked with has that limiting belief. Imagine this limiting belief is held by a child. You at about the age of 4 to 6 to 7, in there somewhere. And imagine that child sitting on a bed in a room alone. Imagine that you, the loving adult that you truly are, your best self, is looking in through a window. As you look at that child, can you find within yourself a feeling of caring and compassion and love? Find the caring or the compassion or the love. Go into the room with the child and tell her or him that you have come to be with them, that you are them grown up, and everyone is meant to have one person, one, to love them 24/7. And it wasn't their parents, and it wasn't their siblings, and it wasn't this or that. It's you. You are the one person that love has sent to love them 24/7. And now you're here, and you're not going away. Now, as we start to open a relationship up between you and this memory bubble of the child, we don't want to rush that child. We want to ask, is it okay if I sit on the bed with you? So we're doing this to show the child that she or he is empowered and that we're just there to love them, protect them, care for them, and not steamroll them. If the child will let you sit down, sit down. Just allow that feeling of caring to shine out. And you might say to the child, I'm sorry, I haven't come for you before, but I am here now, and I'm not going away. Ask the child, would you like to sit close to me? Would you like my arm around you? Would you like a hug? What would you like? And you have to feel into, we call that a felt sense. Use your felt sense and feel into what that child is saying. If the child will let you give her or him a hug, do so. And imagine enough time goes by. Subconscious can't tell the difference between real and imagined. So as you imagine enough time goes by so the child relaxes with your presence, it will be happening at the right level. Now imagine that you're now interacting with the child, maybe playing a game or reading a book or coloring. So there's interaction going on. And now imagine a whole day of that love through interaction. At the end of that day, ask yourself, how's that child feeling? Now, let's imagine a whole week of that. What if you were there every moment looking out for that child, protecting her or him? So if there was threat around, you are protecting that child, surrounding that child with safety and love so that no one can come and harm it. And you can truly say to that child, I will never let anyone harm you again, because this is one moment in time that is about to be healed and find its place in your heart. Imagine weeks go by. Now we're doing this a little quickly because we only have a few minutes, but it will still work. So imagine you've been there for 2 weeks, loving that child nonstop. How is she or he doing? Good. And now we expand it. Subconscious tell the difference between real and imagined. So the question is, if you've been there loving that child nonstop, protecting that child nonstop, giving that child all that she or he needs, how are they doing? How are they feeling a month later? So you may start to feel the child feels more alive, more present. I would say this is really happening in your unconscious. Now, as you think a year goes by, feel the love. That's what's doing the work. Imagine a year of that love nonstop, respect, honoring, love, and look to see how the child's doing after a year. You may feel an upsurge of strength in that child. And let's go for another 2 or 3 years so we honor this time frame. So let's say that child is 10 now. You've been loving that child nonstop. Now the key to doing this is that child at 10 was not you at 10. That child at 10 is a different part of you that's manifesting. It's a different aspect of the diamond of your true self that is revealing itself. So don't try to make the child at 10 what you were like. Just answer the question, what is she or he like? And if we had time, we'd grow that child all the way up to adulthood. And then you would have a chance to experience what you were like in this part of your mind without your stuff. Just experiencing a clarity of your true nature that has been revealed and now will never be hidden. It's always there. You can do this on my website. You can work there actually for free. You can use the book. I do individual sessions, which I love doing. And this work, it's really holy to me. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
And so we ask that this healing be integrated through all time, space, dimensions, and interdimensions, throughout the hologram of life and existence, which is to say, through every part and particle of our being. And so it is.
And so it is. Wow, that's amazing. I really got a sense of, being that that young me growing up with that kind of attention and concern and love, and how I was different at age 10, how I was different as a teen,
Yes.
and how I'd be different now. And this is just such a, it's not simple or easy, but it kind of is, it's not, but it is. And we can do this for ourselves. And I think the whole point is to build the consciousness of who we really are under the muck and the mire and the old stories, and so that brilliance, that diamond self, the essential self, can then be here in the now moment, creating whatever it is we want to create.
That's beautiful. I love the way you said that. We're building an experience of our authentic self. We're building it one jigsaw piece at a time. But every time we know ourselves to be loving, caring, protective, all those beautiful things, we experience it as ourselves. It's not intellectual, it's experiential. And so it's undeniable.
It is. Wow. Thank you so much, Rick. That was really powerful. Here we've got your website. Yep, you can go there. Been there. Oh, there's your book.
Hi, book.
Yeah. And I know that I was a part of the book study that you did, and I'm imagining there's groups in spiritual centers and in corners of the world that get together to discuss your book.
I would love to do another group. If there's someone that would like to organize another reading group, I would love to be part of that. I just don't have the time to do the organization part. But if you're interested in that, send me an email and we'll talk about it.
Okay, we will. And I will be sharing more about our conversation today and this beautiful book. And I, again, want to say thank you, Rick, so much for being here. Thank you for being a rock in my life and helping me to shift through some of the dark times. It's been really, truly, you've been a blessing in my life. And thank you for being here today.
Wow. I think that you're doing such wonderful work on this planet. The thought that I have contributed even a little bit to that is just thrilling to me.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you, Rick, and thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank you to New Thought Media Network and our producer, Michael. And next week, we're going to have the fabulous Martha Creek, and she's going to be sharing some of her wisdom. And I'll see you next time. So thanks so much. Lots of love and blessings to you right where you are. And thank you, Rick, for this great process. I know it's made a great imprint in the hearts and the minds of everyone watching today. Mwah. Peace and blessings. Goodbye.